Hey, friends, and welcome back to Life Coaching for Mompreneurs. I'm Martine Williams, your host. And before we dive into today's episode, I want to kind of set up how November is going to be here on the podcast. So this month, I am taking some time and some space to rest and to grieve the recent passing of my mother-in-law, who was such a special lady to our family. And as the full-time caregiver, I need some time. I need some space. And I talk about this all the time on the podcast of, taking care of yourself and prioritizing yourself. And I am not just going to talk the talk without walking the walk. And so throughout November, which here in this community, we talk about it as November, I'll be sharing some of our most valuable podcasts, so MVPs from the podcast archives on this topic. And each one is going to tie perfectly into this month's theme of saying no to what drains you and yes to what truly matters. So whether you're hearing these for the first time, or maybe they're just the gentle reminder that you need right now as we move into the busiest season of the year, I hope they meet you right where you are and encourage you to protect your peace, honor your capacity, and lead your life and not just perform it. So thank you so much for being a part of this community, for your prayers, for your support, for your reach outs, and for giving me the grace to have this pause this month. Now, let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Remix Moments with Martine, where we will remix your mindset one moment at a time. I'm your host, Martine Williams, and I'm here to bring you a quick burst of inspiration, insight, and a fresh spin on your mompreneur journey. In just a few minutes, we'll remix your mindset, energize your day, and keep you moving forward with purpose. Let's dive in to today's moment. Well, hey friends, welcome back to the Remix Moments with Martine. We are going to continue on with our November theme, and we're going to talk about a dirty word that many of us deal with. It's a topic that comes up on a lot of my conversations with my friends, conversations with my clients, and even within my own head. And it's the word guilt. And so I want to start out by just sharing with you the definition of what guilt is. We're just going to dive right in. And then I'm going to be sharing with you 10 steps to help kick the guilt. So guilt is a cognitive or emotional experience that occurs when a person believes or realizes accurately or not, that she has compromised her own standards of conduct or has violated a moral standard and bears a significant responsibility for that violation. Now, that's a long definition of what guilt is, and you can find some shorter ones for sure. But what I loved about this specific definition of guilt is that it hits on two things. It hits on a person's beliefs, which we talk a lot about here in the podcast, and it hits on whether it's accurate or not. And can I just speak from my own experience and the coaching clients that I have walked this journey with, that a lot of the time our guilt is not accurate. It's based on the beliefs that we have about ourselves or the beliefs that other people are putting on us. And so a stat that came up as I was researching this topic of guilt was that 51% of women report losing sleep over guilt. 51%. That's pretty remarkable, friends. And it's definitely a topic that we want to cover. And so we may have 2 episodes on this. We'll just see how it goes. But I really want to dive into this and help you with this, because this is not something like, oh, well, Martine never experiences guilt anymore. I've definitely have opportunities where it can creep back in. But I want you to think about, where is your guilt rooted? Research states that there are 3 kinds of guilt. So there's misplaced guilt, which is feeling guilt for things you didn't actually do. There's appropriate guilt, which is feeling guilty for the things you did do. Like, we're not perfect here. We do make mistakes. And the third one is guilt brought on by other people to get you to do what they want to do. So it's kind of like a manipulation, right? It's a tactic of the guilt bombers. There's also a toxic guilt, and this is a type of guilt that no longer motivates you to make positive changes. And the study suggested that with toxic guilt, you can actually end up feeling bad about yourself as a whole versus just feeling remorseful for the behavior, right? So like you did something and you feel remorseful for it. But with toxic guilt, and I do believe many of us, and many of you may be living with toxic state of guilt, you start attaching your identity and you feel bad about your entire identity instead of just the behavior that maybe you did or didn't do. It's a major influence. And so it can influence toxic guilt, can influence your decision-making process. And then we become driven by guilt versus facts. So when you're living in a constant state of guilt and it's part of your identity, your decisions are driven from that. And if that's you and you really feel like that's become this toxic guilt, it might be time to talk to a professional about it and to figure out what the deep rooted issues are, like the depression, the anxiety, or other things that are going on from maybe a mental illness standpoint that you need to get some professional help with. And let me be the first to say, if that's where you are, like there's no shame in that. There's no guilt in that. There's no judgment in that. Get the help that you need, have the conversations that you need to have. And so for the purposes of this podcast, we're going to be talking about the other forms of guilt, not specifically in the toxic guilt, but some questions that you can ask yourself about guilt is, did you actually do something wrong? Or is it just perceived as doing something wrong? So think back to the last time that you felt guilty or you felt overwhelmed with guilt. Did you actually do something wrong? Or is it just perceived as doing something wrong by someone else or by the expectations of someone else? Maybe it's perceived by you, but it's just warped thinking. Is it coming from someone else? Is there a guilt bomber who just keeps showing up in your life, especially this time of year? What about the situation is making you feel guilty? What is it about this particular situation that guilt is rising up in you? And is there anything that you can do to change the outcome? Like, is this something that you can control or is it something that you can't control, that you can't do anything about? Just some great questions that I hope you will take the time to write down and think through if you are struggling with guilt right now. And so now that we've asked the question, maybe you've thought about it and you're like, okay, what kind of guilt am I actually dealing with here? What kind do I deal with the most? And there may be times where you're feeling all of them at a particular time. I have many seasons of misplaced guilt. I have many seasons of appropriate guilt, which I need to apologize, when I do something that is not right or that hurts someone else. Or maybe you're in a season of guilt bombers. And I do feel like the holidays is a big season for those guilt bombers who try to manipulate you to do what they want you to do. And it just shows its ugly head, I think, in the holidays. And so be aware of that and be mindful of that and be armored up for that. Have you started to get in the mail those holiday guides with like the top 100 gifts? I got one from, I think it was Target the other day. Have you started to get those in the mail? Well, I have something special for you to help you to design your holidays with intention and without regrets. Now is the time to start preparing and planning for the holiday that you want for you and your family. So in honor of November, I put together my Stress Less Holiday Guide. So go to martinewilliams.com/stress less and go grab that guide. The link is in the show notes too. Don't just go to it, print it off and design the holidays that you want. Okay, so now we know the definition of guilt and we know the different types of guilt. But now let's talk a little bit about and kind of wrap it in with our November on why guilt shows up in the first place. As mompreneurs, we're wired to care for others. We are nurturers, we are supportive, we naturally want to help. And it's just part of what makes us so good at what we do. But that same desire to be there for everyone can become a double-edged sword, right? We equate saying no with failing someone or letting them down. But here's the truth. Guilt is often tied to that unrealistic expectation that we place on ourselves, the belief that we should be able to handle everything. I hear that a lot. Or that it's our job to make everyone happy. I heard that just this week with a client. And the powerful mindset shift here is recognizing that saying no isn't about letting others down. And I know I've said that a couple of times this month, and I'm going to keep saying it because that's like what I hear all the time. It's about lifting yourself up. You can't pour from an empty cup. And when you say yes to everyone and everything, you're depleting your own resources. And then what's left for you and the things that truly matter. Like, seriously, what's left for you? And a lot of times, like, we give so much to things that are less important. And so the things that are most important actually get what's left of us versus the best of us. So let's take a moment to kind of debunk some myths around saying no, because these are the stories we often tell ourselves that also fuel our guilt. Myth number one is, if I say no, people will think I'm selfish. And the reality is, setting boundaries is actually an act of self-respect. It's about recognizing your limits and honoring your needs. Thinking of it in this way, every time you say no to something that drains you, you're saying yes to something that matters most to you. You're preserving your time and energy for what truly aligns with your values. So myth number one, if I say no, people will think I'm selfish. The reality is, it's actually an act of self-respect. And when you do this, you actually give other women, other people, the permission to actually say no as well. Myth number two is, no one else will step up if I say no. This came up on a recent survey that I did to my community. And this belief actually puts you in the role of being the default caretaker for everyone and everything. But you're not responsible for other people's responses or their willingness to step up. When you say no, you give others the opportunity to rise to the occasion and find their own solutions. Remember, it's not your job to solve everyone else's problems. It's your job to manage your energy and prioritize what matters most. And I had a friend who was asked to babysit, and she was struggling with telling her no. And she spent way too much time drafting out this text message, this long text message, trying to say no and justify. And if I don't say yes, her thought was, if I don't say yes, this person's not going to be able to go out and enjoy their dinner. They need a babysitter. When really, the sooner she could say no and tell her she wasn't available, the sooner this mom had an answer and could find someone else to do it. And it was funny, not funny. I mean, it kind of is now, but I know in the moment it was really intense for her, because she had this just compelling myth of, if I don't do this, no one's going to be able to help her. But when she responded and told her she couldn't, the girl was like, okay, fine. And she went and found someone else. So just think of it in that way. The sooner you can say no and tell that person that, the sooner they can get the person that they do need or that can help them. So myth number three, and this is a big one, is that I should be able to do it all. I can't tell you how many times I hear this on clarity calls. It's probably one of the biggest walls or obstacles that a potential client has to go through, because they're like, I am a grown woman. I should be able to do this all on my own. I shouldn't have to ask for help. I shouldn't have to hire a coach. But this is a myth, and this is a guilt trap that we fall into most, because who says that you have to do it all? Who also says you have to do it all alone? I'll add to that. But this belief comes from an external pressure or comparison, but it's not realistic or sustainable. You're not meant to be everything for everyone. You're meant to be fully present where it matters most. And that means saying no to what doesn't serve you. So when you're feeling the overwhelm, when you're feeling the guilt, when you're feeling some of those emotions that are being produced by you doing it all, I want you to pause and think, what can I say no to in this moment? And it may just be in this moment, in this season, and it can be a yes later. It's not a no forever. But I should be able to do it all is a myth, and it's a guilt trap. So now that we've challenged those myths, I want to talk about how to overcome the guilt, how to kick the guilt. And so we're going to continue this conversation, but it's going to be in our next episode. So make sure you tune into next week's episode, where I'm going to share with you the 10 ways to overcome and to kick the guilt. All right. I'll see you on the next episode. Well, that's it, friends, for this remix moment. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me, and I hope that you are feeling inspired and ready to take on whatever comes your way. Remember, even small moments can lead to big changes. If this moment made a difference, be sure to subscribe, share with your fellow moms, and leave me a quick review. Seriously, it means the world to me to hear from you. And until next time, I am believing in you, and I will catch you in the next moment.